Start investing in gold and silver today at sdbullion.com and join the over 35,000 precious metal investors who have made the switch to the lowest gold and silver prices in the industry. SD Bullion recently claimed a spot on the prestigious Inc. 500, making them one of the fastest-growing bullion companies in the United States. With low bullion prices and over-the-top customer service, SD Bullion is setting the standard for precious metals transactions. Visit www.sdbullion.com today and start saving on every precious metals purchase you make.
How does America transcend the left-right paradigm for the people that are politically active and aware and come to the realization that it's really Americans against the banking cartel? How do we transcend the false left-right paradigm and get people to realize, like you always say, it's a crime syndicate that we're up against here?
Essentially a legalized crime syndicate, yeah. Well, I don't think there's an easy answer to that, because I think to come to this awareness takes a lot of education. Takes a lot of learning. Education implies like a process that you go to school and get educated, but I'm talking about a different kind. I'm talking about like self-education, learning, observing, being aware, understanding what you see. And coupled with that would be the ability to question authority. You know, we've all been raised in a system where the first thing, you learn is authority. Well, don't do that, Johnny. Why not? Because mommy said so. Authority. You do it because authority said so. And we're fine with that. We grow up with that. But then we get later in life, and all of a sudden we find that our lives are being directed by authority at every turn. There's authority in our political life, authority in our medical life, authority in our school system telling us what is correct and what is incorrect. And we increasingly are led to believe that it's not even a good idea to question it. We just should follow it. Now, admittedly, sometimes that's true. I mean, if you're in a burning building and there's a fire captain there saying, "Okay, everybody, be calm. This is the stairway down out of the building." You don't question it. Say, well, "Are you sure this is the stairway?" Yeah, of course there are occasions where authority really is very worthwhile. But when you're told that, well, don't question this moral right, this is right and that's wrong, and don't ask me what makes it so, or this is what we should do politically. We should, we should take from this guy because he's got more money than that guy and give it to him because he represents more votes in his group. I think we should question that. Is that really a good idea or not? And so I put the two together. I think the only way we can get people to make that transition and to transcend to a higher level is to just spend quite a bit of time observing, learning, being educated, and questioning, and coming pretty much to their own conclusions. Now, I'd like to jump the gun on that issue a little bit because it tends to lead to a very pessimistic conclusion. Well, most people don't care, they'll never consider these things, and so therefore we're lost. We need 51% of the vote, and then we're only going to get 5%. For God's sake, we'd be lucky if we get 3%. And so they want to give up. And that attitude is based on a serious fallacy. The fallacy is that we need 51%. The truth of the matter is, throughout all history, mass movements and political changes have been led by a very small minority of people, usually far less than 3% of the population. Those are the thinkers, the leaders, those are the people that determine what the rest of them will do. Most people are content with that. I think back to the American Revolution. I was appalled to again look at some of the statistics. The number of Americans that actually participated in the American Revolution was appallingly small. I mean, I've forgotten the exact numbers now, but it was appallingly small. The number that volunteered to fight in the war, and even those that stayed home, a lot of them were, well, I'm neutral on this, or some of them supported the crown. And they just didn't want any part of it. It was definitely a small minority that fought and led and won the American Revolution. Now, after the Revolution Everybody was, I was all for this from the very beginning. Yeah. The truth of the matter is that the masses will always follow the winner. Always. It's a sad commentary on human nature, but it's true. So knowing that, it's kind of encouraging because we realize that maybe we, although we are in the minority, possibly we could change society in the minority if we become the new leaders. So there's some good and some bad in that analysis.
All right. How do we stop World War III?
How do we stop World War?
How do we stop World War III? Because all indicators are that they want the existing powers that be want to start World War III is what it appears.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts that crowd in on that one. First of all, I think we've been in World War III for some time.
I mean, like hot nuclear war.
Like hot nuclear war.
Yeah.
Well, we can't. We can't stop it if these people want to unleash it because they have their fingers on the buttons. We don't have our fingers on the buttons. So we have a little time yet to change that. The only way we can stop that kind of a conflagration is to remove these madmen from positions where they could start World War III. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen easily. It's going to take a little time. It's going to take this transition you were talking about. It's going to take an awareness on at least 3 or 4 or 5% of the population. And then that 4 or 5% have got to get off their duffs and do something and become active and assume a responsibility in leading their fellow citizens to a better type of government. In other words, they've got to be active in government. They've got to be active in politics. They've got to run for office. They've got to find new candidates. They can't just sit home and say, isn't this terrible, and complain about it. They've got to become true
leaders. And not just arming up, right? Because we see that like I go to gun shows and people are just arming up. They're like, we're fed up. We're just buying guns and ammo and that's it. And that seems to be like playing right into the hands of the establishment.
Oh, it is, definitely, because they would like nothing better than to see some of that right now. If they saw some really hot-headed people, with guns and go out and shoot somebody, maybe they shoot some local politician that really shouldn't be in office anyway, but you don't get rid of them by shooting them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if they did, they'd say, look at this, we finally got a crisis here. Now we can go out and confiscate guns even more aggressively than we did before. We can declare martial law. We can do all the things we want to do, but now we got a good excuse for it. And beyond that, I don't think people realize how hopeless an armed revolt would be. They don't appreciate the power of the weapons that are in the hands of governments right now. I mean, there are weapons that you don't read about in the newspaper, but we know that they're there. Sometimes you read about them. I remember reading one recently where they have these, basically they're microwaves, directional microwave. And if you have a crowd of people out there, you just turn the microwave, throw the switch, and they feel like they're on fire.
I've seen the videos.
Yeah, I've seen videos of it. I mean, and there are other things that are probably even worse than that. There's no way that a bunch of guys with their M1s out there are going to overcome that kind of a thing. And I think it's important for those who are considering that line of resistance, important for them to know the difference between a revolt and a revolution. A revolt is the guy on, national TV, the movie, I forgot what it was, Network, I think it's called. It says, I'm fed up, I'm not going to take it anymore. And the mentality is that, just grab your guns and go in the streets and this is it, we're going to smash this horrible monster. That is a revolt. That's when people are fed up and they just happen in history a lot. But they never succeed. There's never been a revolt of which I'm aware that succeeded. It was always eventually put down by the superior military force of the established government. But a revolution can succeed, like the American Revolution. And the difference is that it was organized. The American Revolution actually was a revolution of 13 countries. We called them colonies, but they were countries at that time. They had their own military, they had their own leaders, they had elected representatives, they had court system, they had jails, they had laws, they had money, they had everything. They were a state, 13 of them. And they joined together, and the 13 states, the United States, fought a successful revolution against the state of Great Britain. But had those people just been farmers that said, we're not going to take it anymore, and they grabbed their muskets off the mantle and went down to the bridge, Concord Bridge, and met the redcoats, they would have been wiped out because there was no way to fight that organized military force. So with that, with an understanding, these people say, we're going to revolt. They don't realize that they're just stepping right up to what could become one of the worst bloodbaths of all history, and they will not accomplish their goal. So what could accomplish their goal? It's hard to imagine, but the only parallel that I can think of that exists in the United States right now is that we have 50 states. And some of those states are getting a backbone, it seems like it, and they're beginning to nullify the laws of the federal government where they feel that those laws are unconstitutional and violate their own sovereign rights. Mm-hmm. It's conceivable that if enough of these states, which do have their own military and their own governments, their own legal systems, and their own money, communications, all that, if enough of these states were to stand up against the federal government, then there'd be the basis, at least, for a true revolution. Theoretically, there would be the basis for success, although even then, you'd be looking at a very serious imbalance in weaponry between the federal forces and what any of the states have, at least to my knowledge. But anyway, that's my long-winded answer to your question. I don't have a solution to it. I'm certainly not advocating that people prepare to form a rebellion and a revolt, because I don't think that's going to accomplish what they're hoping to accomplish.
Okay.